Good. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Today inshallah I will start with the 29th juz of the Quran, a new cluster of surahs, the before last cluster of surahs, from Al-Mulk to Al-Mursalat. And this juz, and this cluster of surahs, talks about a very specific topic, and it's important, and it's not repeated much in the Quran, and it's all concentrated in these surahs. It talks about what the person who is going to call to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what we call da'wah, or a da'iyah, someone who was going to live their lives calling people to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what they need. Everything regarding da'wah. What you need and what tools you need to have, what methods you're going to use, examples of how it works and how it doesn't work. And that's what Juz Tabarak will talk about. Juz Tasi wal Ashrun, the 29th Juz will kind of focus on. And it's very relevant, especially, that's why I think you'll see the last two Juz or three are important for people to memorize and know, because they summarize a lot of the very complicated and large topics in the Quran that are talked about in detail in bigger surahs. You'll find them all summarized and condensedly and concentrated in these last few ajza. And Juz' Tabarak is definitely a very interesting one, with the way each surah kind of tackles what you need to know, or what you need to be able to have with you in order to perform da'wah, because that is the ultimate goal of us being Muslims, is to represent Islam and to perform da'wah to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and have people actually follow follow the path of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. That's the whole point. So how are you going to do that? Well, the first few surahs talk about what you're going to need. Surat Al-Mulk talks about what you need in terms of knowledge, what you need to know. What you need to know, what you need to relay to others. You'll see Surat Al-Qalam will talk about what you need from a different perspective. It'll talk about what ethics you need. And Surat Al-Haqqa will talk about what wa'az you need, what mu'arij, what behaviors. Each one will look at something different. So, and you can see the differences very clearly in the surah when you recite it and learn it. For Surat Al-Mulk, talks about what you need to know as a Muslim who's going to perform da'wah to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and spread Islam. There are certain things that you need to have certainty about regarding them, and that you need to relay this information to them as well. And it's a very famous surah. Everyone, most people know Surat Al-Mulk and recite Surat Al-Mulk. The Prophet ﷺ in many authentic hadith talked about the fadl of Surat Al-Mulk and the status of this surah, and how it protects people from the punishment of the grave, and it protects people on the Day of Judgment, and it aids them into Jannah. And there's different ahadith that talk about it, talk about how that is the case from different authentic sources. And it's not that common that we have surahs that have that attached to them. But Surah Al-Mulk is definitely probably one of the highest up there in terms of a surah that have a lot of ahadith where the Prophet ﷺ pointed out the importance and the status of the surah, of reciting it every night, of learning it and memorizing it, and then hopefully living by the message that it carries. And since it's going to start by talking about knowledge, you can see the beginning is very strong and very clear. تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير. Exalted is he, the one who the dominion is in his hand, or the dominion or the sovereignty belongs to him subhanahu wa ta'ala. وهو على كل شيء قدير, and everything he is capable of all Jalla Jalaluhu. The first ayah on its own, Tabaraka. Tabaraka means the amount of blessing that comes from him is endless. That's what Tabaraka means, and he is exalted for it. It's a very interesting word in Arabic, and it's telling us something about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the dominion belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's in his hand, that he is capable of all. The first two pieces of information that now we know. الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. Immediately the second verse in the surah answers the largest question of life, the most asked question throughout history. Why are we alive? it doesn't seem like, we designed this or planned it out, but we're here. So why are we alive and why do we die? And this whole life and death cycle, why is it so? And if God did create us, then why did He create us? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers that very clearly and directly, right in the second verse. He's the one who created death and life. لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ, so He may put you to the test. So He may put you through trials. So He may test you. أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا, to determine who behaves the best and who has the best deeds. لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْغَفُورُ, and He is indeed the unfathomable and the most forgiving. So right away, the surah answers an extremely philosophical, eternal question that the human race has always struggled with in terms of trying to figure out why are we here. And many people walk around all their lives trying to figure out why they're here, and they never do. And they live a life that's aimless and purposeless, or they come up with their own purpose and own aim, but it's not something that is sacred. It's not something that is holy. It's not something that necessarily has a source that is verified, that offers them comfort and clarity. But as a Muslim, you have all that. You're born with a very clear answer. Right in Surat Al-Mulk, you're told, you have the information right away. You're here so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may put you through trials and tests. Life is just is a number of trials. These trials are designed so that you can prove yourself. You're given opportunities to show perseverance, to show strength, to show commitment, to show gratitude. Depending on what trial you have something to show Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the final goal being that we pass all that and we return to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, to His Jannah. But that is the basic answer. And the name right after Huwa al-Aziz is the unfathomable, unreachable. Because you may say, well, why did you... This is the last why that we can ask regarding that question. Beyond that is something that is unanswered. That it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's choice, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's business. He is al-Aziz, He's not questioned. He's unquestionable subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you stop there. Why couldn't the test be different? Why do we need to be tested in the first place? Why? The questions end at that point. He created us subhanahu wa ta'ala so that we may be stewards of the earth, and He may put us through trials and tests through the time that we're here, so that we may prove ourselves to be the best people we can be, and then return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with these good deeds. And that is the purpose of death and life. Again, that first piece of information. The third, the ayah right after that is another piece of information. الذي خلق سبع سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير. The one who created 7 stories of cosmos, one upon the other. When you look at them, you don't see differences in the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look as many times as you want. Look again. And look, do you see different systems functioning? Do you see different things? Do you see any different elements? It's all the same. Everything is made from the same stardust that everything else is made of. Everything. Look again and again. And every time you look, you will fail to see more than one system functioning around you and working. This is another extremely important piece of information, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created all of this. It all runs by the same set of laws. We run by those laws, and everything around us does as well. And that oneness of the laws directs us to the oneness of Himself subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the verses start talking about the concept of al-akhirah. وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نذير قالوا بلى. The verses start talking about what happens on the Day of Judgment to those who refuse to believe in any of this, how they will be taken Yawm al-Qiyamah and put in the hellfire, and it describes the hellfire in a very powerful manner, that it's almost ripping itself to pieces in anger over the sins of the human being. Every time a person is thrown into it, they're asked, why are you here? Were you not sent messengers? Did no one come and tell you about what's awaiting? And they would say, yes, بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا. A messenger came to us and he told us what was going to happen, but we refused to believe. وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير. وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير فاعترفوا بذنبهم فسحقا لأصحاب السعير. And they'll say, and they'll continue to admit their guilt and admit their mistakes. Had we listened when we were told, had we listened and learned and then contemplated what was going to happen next when our prophets told us, we wouldn't be here. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and they admit their mistake, but it's too late. It's too late. You could have done that during your life and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have accepted, but now it's too late for that to be the case. And the ayah after it talks about the other side of the إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُم بِالْغَيْبِ لَهُم مَغْفِرَةٌ وَأَجْرٌ كَبِيرٌ. There's two sides of the coin. And those who revere their Lord, even though they have not seen Him, will be given great amounts of forgiveness and great amounts of reward. So if you look Surat Al-Mulk, it points out the basic pieces of information that we need to have clearly. The fact that subhanahu wa ta'ala is tabarak. I mean, every good comes from Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that the dominion is in His hand. And that He created life and death for a purpose, and He told us what the purpose is. That He created everything and runs in one system. There's no two set of laws or rules running here. That there's going to be accountability Yawm al-Qiyamah for the disbelievers and for the believers. And that the warning is heavier than the good news. Meaning, if you look at the number of verses that talk about what is awaiting those who refuse to listen to this, and the number of the verse that talks about what you get if you do the right thing, there's a big discrepancy. There's way too many verses talking about Jahannam and just one talking about Jannah. Why? Because it's much more important for you to know about the punishment than it is to know about the reward. And that's just common sense. If I come to you and I tell you if you achieve this much, you're going to get this much money, and I fail to tell you that if you don't achieve that much, you're going to end up in a lot of debt, you're going to go to jail. You're going to be really upset if I fail to tell you that and you don't end up achieving whatever it is you were supposed to achieve. Like, you'll be very upset. Why didn't you tell me there was a punishment? But if it's done the other way around, it's not as bad. If I come and tell you if you don't achieve this much, you're going to be punished, and I fail to tell you that if you do, you're going to be rewarded, and you do and you get rewarded, it's a nice surprise. You're not going to be upset about it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasizes the punishment part because it's important for you to know. You have the right to know that. You have the right to be told that that's what's awaiting if you don't listen to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to you. If you don't understand that you were created here for a purpose. There is a king who owns everything, who's asking you to perform certain deeds. That's important for you to know because that information without it can cause a lot of problems Yawm al-Qiyamah. He continues subhanahu wa ta'ala with the knowledge. He says, وَأَسِرُّوا قَوْلَكُمْ أَوْ اجْهَرُوا بِهِ إِنَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِذَاتِ الصُّدُورِ. And whether you speak in secrecy or you speak publicly, it makes no difference. Do what you want. He knows everything subhanahu wa ta'ala. So another piece, He's the omniscious. So it started out that he's the king, the dominion belongs to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is filled with barakah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is capable of all of kulli shay'in qadir. He is one subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now He is the omniscious. These are things that you're supposed to know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. Does He not know whom He created? Of course He's going to know everything you're saying. He created you. You think He created and He doesn't know what He created? He knows what He created. And He is al-Latif, al-Khabir. He knows all the details. Al-Latif here is the one who knows the subtle details. Al-Khabir, the one who knows what goes on inside the heart, the unseen, meaning the emotions and thoughts that don't really have a materialistic footprint anywhere. وهو اللطيف الخبير سبحانه وتعالى. سورة الملك هي السورة الأولى في المحور ما قبل الأخير في القرآن الكريم. هو الجزء 29. جزء مكي بامتياز ومعظم سوره مكية مبكرة أيضا. والجزء المحور من الملك إلى المرسلات يتحدث عن موضوع مهم للمسلم في حياته إذ تقارع هذه السور قضية الدعوة إلى الله سبحانه وتعالى. بمعنى ما تحتاجه حتى تكون داعية ناجحا. ماذا يحتاج المسلم في حياته ليدعو. نحن بالآخر هدفنا أو هدف المسلم أو هدف تكوين المسلم أن يكون ممثلا للدين، أن يدعو إلى الله سبحانه وتعالى بأخلاقه وعمله وعلمه وسلوكه إلى ما هنالك. فسورة الجزء 29 يتحدث عن هذا المعنى. ماذا يحتاج المسلم حتى يدعو؟ أساليب الدعوة، أمثلة للدعوة الناجحة وأمثلة للدعوة غير الناجحة. فهذا كله هذا ما يتحدث عنه سورة الجزء 29. كل سورة تتحدث عن نقطة معينة من هذه النقاط. والسورة الأولى سورة الملك، وهي لعلها أشهر سورة في الجزء، ولعلها من أشهر سور القرآن، وهي من السور التي تحدث النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم باستفاضة عن فضلها وأنها المنجية من عذاب القبر، وأنها المنجية يوم القيامة، وكثرت فيها الأحاديث الصحيحة. وقليلة هي السور التي فيها أحاديث صحيحة في فضل قراءتها وحفظها وتلاوتها يوميا. سورة الملك من هذه الثلة القليلة. فهذه سورة ينبغي أن يحفظها الإنسان وأن يكثر من قراءتها ويقرأها كل ليلة قبل نومه. والأحاديث في هذا كثيرة، لن أدخل فيها، لكن ممكن تراجع الأحاديث. فسورة الملك لها فضل، وهي تتحدث عن ما يحتاجه الداعية إلى الله والمسلم الذي يدعو إلى الله بعمله وحياته من العلم. نصيبك من العلم، ماذا عليك أن تعرف، وماذا ما هي الأمور التي يجب عليك أن تعلمها، ثم عليك أن توصل علمها إلى الآخرين. فسورة الملك تتحدث عن هذه القضايا. فتبدأ أولا بالتعريف بالله جل جلاله، أنه تبارك، أن بيده الملك، وأنه على كل شيء قدير. هذه أول 3 معلومات. ثم الآية الثانية تجيب عن أكثر سؤال تداولته البشرية منذ أن وجدوا. لماذا نحن هنا؟ ما هو الهدف من الحياة، وما هو الهدف من الموت، ما هو الهدف من خلقنا، الذي خلق الموت والحياة. هذه الحلقة من الموت والحياة. ثم ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا، فأجاب إجابة شافية وافية. ليس بعد هذا الكلام كلام، الموضوع انتهى. الله سبحانه وتعالى دلنا لماذا خلقنا، ليبلونا أينا أحسن عملا. أمامنا فرصة. هذه الحياة فيها مصاعب، فيها مشقات، فيها نعم، فيها تجارب، كلها ابتلاءات وكلها بلاء. والله سبحانه وتعالى يقيم الإنسان حسب عمله. فالمسلم لا يعيش حياته ضائعا يتساءل لماذا هو هنا، ما هو هدف وجوده، ما هو يعرف. هو من لحظة ولادته ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. طب ليش تبلونا يا رب وهو العزيز؟ ما تسأله جل جلاله، لا يسأل عما يفعل. هنا تنتهي الأسئلة، ما عندنا. لما تقابل الله سبحانه اسأله لماذا اختبرتنا هكذا، ولماذا لم يكن الاختبار مختلفا، ولماذا يجيبك. أو ابحث في العلم وابحث في القرآن، تجد تقتنع أو ترى النور فيما اختاره الله سبحانه وتعالى، والخيرة فيما اختاره جل جلاله. لكن هذا هو الجواب. هذه معلومة مهمة. بدونها الإنسان لا يجيد الحياة، لا يستطيع أن يحيا حياة صحيحة صحية. ثم يعطينا معلومة ثالثة: الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر ثم ارجع البصر كرتين. ما في تفاوت في خلقه، أي أن هناك نظاما واحدا يحكم هذا العالم. نظام واحد يحكم من العرش إلى الفرش، من الذرة إلى المجرة، كله يحكمه نظام واحد، قوانين واحدة. انظر كيف شئت إلى السماء والأرض وكرر النظر وابحث، ستجد عناصر واحدة، مجموعة عناصر واحدة ومجموعة واحدة من القوانين تحكم كل شيء، دلالة على أن الذي خلق وأن الذي دبر وأن الذي أوجد هو واحد سبحانه وتعالى. ثم تتتابع الآيات في الحديث عن الآخرة، عن البعث. معلومة أخرى مهمة، وهناك تشديد على قضية العقوبة. فأما بضع آيات تتحدث عن النار تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها، وفيها حديث عن ندم الكافر يوم القيامة، وعن اعترافه أنه جاءه نذير ولم يؤمن به، ولو أنه عقل لا آمن به واعترف بذنبه، لكن تأخر الوقت عليه فلا يقبل منه. والذي يخشى ربه بالغيب له مغفرة وأجر كبير. آية واحدة عن الثواب وآيات كثيرة عن العقوبة، لأن معرفتك بالعقوبة أهم من معرفتك بالثواب. فلو فشلت في إخبارك بالثواب ونبهتك عن العقوبة لكان ذلك خيرا لك، لكن لو نبهتك إلى الثواب ونسيت أن أذكرك بالعقوبة لحصل هناك إشكال كبير. فإذا فشل الإنسان هو يظن أنه إذا نجح يؤجر، وإذا ما نجح ما ذكر شيء. فإذا طلع هو إذا اتضح أنه يعاقب إذا لا ينجح، فيقول ما أخبرتموني، هذه المعلومة أهم من تلك. أنا إذا نجحت وكنت أظن ما في شيء وطلع في أجر فخير، أفرح أكثر، مفاجأة. لكن لما أفشل وما تخبرني أن الفشل يؤدي إلى العقوبة، هذه لازم معلومة أهم. فالتشديد والتذكير بالعقوبة والإنذار أهم من التبشير بالجنة، ليس لأننا متشائمون ولأن الدين صلب، لا، لكن المنطق يقتضي أن تعرف أن هناك عقوبة قبل أن تعرف أن هناك ثوابا. تتابع السورة في تعريفنا بقضايا جوهرية عن ديننا وعن ربنا. وأسروا قولكم أو اجهروا به إنه عليم بذات الصدور ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير. الله سبحانه وتعالى عليم بكل شيء، لا يخفى عليه شيء، أسررت به جهرت به، هو يعلم من خلق سبحانه وتعالى، وهو اللطيف الخبير. The verses continue and they continue to explain to us that there is no one there to protect us in this world, no one there to provide for us. No one who actually has control of the universe but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You feel that Surah Al-Mulk, it's very much focused on the basics of the creed. Just make sure, what you really need to know as a Muslim, you have to know who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. What are the basic rules that He put for us to live by? What are the pieces of information regarding ba'ath and nushur, yawm al-qiyamah, and punishment, and that you have to know in order for us to function in a healthy manner properly? أَأَمِنْتُم مَّن فِي السَّمَاءِ أَن يَخْسِفَ بِكُمُ الْأَرْضِ أَمْ أَمِنْتُم مَّن فِي السَّمَاءِ أَن يُرْسِلَ عَلَيْكُمْ حَاصِبًا? The question, why are you all acting like you're safe from any form of punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You have no interest in believing, you have no interest in thinking about these things. You're going about your lives as if there's no purpose for it, and as if there's nothing for you to search for. Are you completely safe and secure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not punish you? That's what amintum means. You feel fully safe? Where are you getting this false sense of security from? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created it and He can destroy it anytime He wants. It's not a threat as much as it is just a logical thing to do. If you're being given commands and you're refusing to listen, and He owns it all subhanahu wa ta'ala. If He has no control over it, then fine, but He does. So why is it that we have no fear? And why is it that we don't feel that we should probably start taking this a bit more seriously? وَلَقَدْ كَذَّبَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ فَكَيْفَ كَانَ نَكِيرٌ. Historically, there are people, nations before you, who refused, and take a look. Take a look what happened to all those nations. Just study the history a little bit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَهَمَّنْ هَذَا الَّذِي هُوَ جُنْدٌ لَكُمْ يَنْصُرُكُم مِّن دُونِ الرَّحْمَنِ أَمَّنْ هَذَا الَّذِي يَرْزُقُكُم إِنْ أَمْسَكَ رِزْقَهُ. Who is it that can provide for you if He doesn't provide for you? Who is it that can protect you if He doesn't protect you, subhanahu wa ta'ala? Jalla Jalaluhu says at the beginning of that second page, هُوَ الَّذِي جَعَلَ لَكُمُ الْأَرْضَ ذَلُولًا فَامْشُوا فِي مَنَاكِبِهَا وَكُلُوا مِن رِزْقِهِ. Indeed, He made the earth easy and open for you. So walk in the wide spaces that He provided for you on this earth, and eat from His provision. And enjoy the life that He created for you. Go and explore the earth and enjoy being on earth. Just remember that you're going to come back to Him. Remember that He gave you a set of rules that you need to follow. Remember that no one can protect you from Him. Remember that no one can protect you in general but Allah. No one can provide for you but Allah. أَفَمَنْ يَمْشِي مُكِبًّا عَلَى وَجْهِهِ أَهْدَى أَمَّنْ يَمْشِي سَوِيًّا عَلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. Who has more guidance? Who has a better life? The one who is walking with their face stuck to the ground, they have no idea where they're going, or the person whose head is up and they see the straight path that they're walking down? Who has more guidance? See, the more knowledge you have, your head goes up and up, and you see more. And the less knowledge you have, you're staring down. You don't know what's happening. You don't have the bigger picture. You don't have the perspective. You're only focused on what I have, what I don't have, what I enjoy, what I don't enjoy. Then you lift your head and you see there's a bigger picture here, and there's a pathway, and there's an ending, and there are consequences, and there's reason that we're here, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Jalla Jalaluhu is understanding all of that. It's a very strong surah. قل هو الذي أنشأكم وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون قل هو الذي ذرأكم في الأرض وإليه تحشرون. Indeed, He is the one who created for you your hearing and your eyes and your consciousness, but you don't show any gratitude. Indeed, He is the one who put you here on earth for a certain period of time, and you'll come back to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Reminding us that what we were given in this life were blessings from Him. We should be showing gratitude. We shouldn't forget that we owe gratitude for the fact that we have this blessing of life and the provision that we see on earth and everything about who we are as human beings. وَيَقُولُونَ مَتَى هَذَا الْوَعْدُ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. So the answer of the disbelievers is, well, when will this punishment day come? Which is the superficial question that doesn't mean anything. It's not as important as when it is, as what have you prepared for it. Do you believe in it? Are you prepared for it? Are you living a life so that whenever it does come, you're ready? Or is this a game where if you just know when, then you can maybe turn things around a couple of hours beforehand, and you can fool God and fool? قُلْ إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ وَإِنَّمَا أَنَا نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ. Say the knowledge of the exact timing is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge. He knows that. See, there are things that we don't know. Surat Al-Mulk is teaching us what you need to know and what you don't know. You won't know this. When Yawm al-Qiyamah, that's not a part of your knowledge. That's not something you should be wasting your time talking about. Sometimes we overinvest in talking about the major signs of Yawm al-Qiyamah, and we spend a lot of time talking about these stories, and we're not going to, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us the timing of Yawm al-Qiyamah is not your business, it's mine. So don't waste too much time trying to figure out where we are, how far away are we, why are you doing this? This is what the kuffar did. Prepare for it. Forget about all the details. exactly what the stories are going to look like and who's going to fight whom and how it's going to. All these are issues that the Quran does not talk about. The Quran, whenever it talks about Yawm al-Qiyamah, it just says it's the knowledge of Allah. إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. And just you do what you need to do. But it does say this. فَلَمَّا رَأَوْهُ زُلْفَةً. When the people see Yawm al-Qiyamah with their own eyes, when it's close enough and it's happening, سِيئَتْ وُجُوهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. The faces of the disbelievers, you can see they're upset. You'll see upset in their faces. وَقِيلَ هَذَا الَّذِي كُنْتُمْ بِهِ تَدَّعُونَ. This is what you used to make fun of and you didn't care about. قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِنْ أَهْلَكَنِيَ اللَّهُ وَمَنْ مَعِيَ أَوْ رَحِمَنَا فَمَنْ يُجِيرُ الْكَافِرِينَ مِنْ عَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. Tell them, if you don't believe what I'm saying and you think that I'm not worthy of reward and I'm worthy of punishment, fine, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can destroy me and everyone who believes with me. But what about you? What are you waiting for? What do you think is going to come to you? If that's what, fine. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Rahman himself can completely take me out and everyone with me. Or he can show us mercy. It's his choice. But what are you going to see? How are you going to protect yourself from Yawm al-Qiyamah? One of the biggest problems of disbelievers was that they were always interested in knowing where other people were going, which is unfortunately something that we have become as Muslims. Now, there's this fixation on where are people going Yawm al-Qiyamah. Are these people going to Jannah? Who's going to Jannah? Who's going to Nar? What are you doing? Did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give this this matter, this ministry into your hands? He asked you to take care of figuring out who's going where? Because it's none of our business. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send people wherever He wants Yawm al-Qiyamah, and no one will dare ask Him a question. All that we have to do is figure out where we're going to go. We're being taught what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent. We have to practice it and live by it, because that's what He's saying. He's saying if you don't, then punishment. If you do, reward. Just live by that and leave others. The kuffar were always asking, where are you going? What about this? What about that? قُلْ هُوَ الرَّحْمَنُ آمَنَّا بِهِ. The final piece of information, the final kind of statement. هُوَ الرَّحْمَنُ. He is the most merciful. آمَنَّا بِهِ. We fully believe in Him. وَعَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْنَا. We fully depend on Him. فَسَتَعْلَمُونَ مَنْ هُوَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Wait long enough and you'll figure out who is the misguided one amongst us. قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِنْ أَصْبَحَ مَاؤُكُمْ غَوْرًا. Say, if at some moment the water stops coming out of the ground, there's no more springs, no more wells, and it just goes down deep into the earth, and there's no more water for you. فَمَنْ يَأْتِيكُمْ بِمَاءٍ مَعِينٍ. Who will bring back running and flowing water to you again? Who put it there to begin with? It's not a matter of it's gone, can He bring it back or not? The idea is, in order for us to live, to survive, to exist as human beings, we needed that. We needed flowing water on earth, because we didn't have enough strength, we didn't have enough organization abilities, we didn't have enough executive functioning to actually go and find ways to build dams and keep water and preserve it and start reservoirs, and we didn't have it. We needed flowing water on earth. If there was no flowing water, there'd be no human being. Who put it there? It was put there so that you could exist, so that you could function, so that you could be, so you could build your civilization, so that you could learn, so you can grow, so you could be more wealthy. He put it there, subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it goes away, who's going to bring it back? If it's taken away, no one else but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's just Surat Al-Mulk, the surah that just reminds us of sometimes obvious pieces of information, but extremely necessary and extremely important. And the person who's going to speak of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, represent Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth, has to know these. And has to reflect his knowledge of these things through his behaviors, as the surah that come will do. The surahs that we're going to be talking about in the next couple of nights are going to talk about that. Yes, now you know this, so this is what your ethics should look like. This is what your emotional status should look like. This is what your behavioral status should look like. But Surat Al-Mulk takes care of the biggest question about what we should know, and answers those big questions that we have always contemplated in a very simple way. So memorize Surat Al-Mulk and recite it as much as you can, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us with Surat Al-Mulk. Subhanahu wa ta'ala bihamdik, la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk, wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Inshallah tonight, tahajjud starts at 3 o'clock as yesterday, and we'll continue that until the end of the month. Jazakumullah khair, barakallahu feekum, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.